And welcome back, everybody, to Wildlife Cake and Cocktails. This is episode 24. I'm very excited. Finally coming to you guys from the RepX Brisbane Reptile Expo. There's over 1,700 metres squared of amazing invertebrates, birds of prey, lizards, turtles, pythons, venomous snakes, and much, much more for you guys to come and experience. You can also check them out at repex.com.au or at RepX Australia on Facebook. And with me, of course, I've got my co-host, Aaliyah Chanel. How you doing?
I'm great. I've seen a lot of cool stuff today, so having a good time.
Yeah, a lot of cool morphs as we've been seeing and wandering around. And we have our good friend Kane Durrant from Wild Exhibits and Turtle Rescues New South Wales. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram. Kane, how you doing, mate?
Very good. Happy to be here.
Excellent. And you guys have been busy down at the stand selling a few photos and things like that?
Yeah, we're busy over at the Wild stand. We're selling some Sydney funnel webs, which have been a real hit up here in Brisbane. Yeah. And
wow, you guys have Sydney funnel webs?
Yeah, we sure do. Sydney funnel webs.
Wow, I didn't make it down there to check them out. I'm going to have to come and have a look. So you keep them down in New South Wales as well, do you?
Yeah, we do, yeah. So we actually provide a few for Venom Works, and we also sell them as pets to private hobbyists, yeah, over the age of 18, of course.
Yeah, wow, and that's becoming more and more common, people getting into arachnids as well?
Yeah, for sure, yeah. Invertebrates has really taken off, especially in this last 12 months. So, yeah, we've really gotten into that side.
And you guys do a lot of, I guess, aquarium work. So you guys are working with, I see, like, you often pictures of you with Saratoga, basically.
Yeah, Saratoga, yeah. Giardini, they're my favourite fish, the Saratoga. So I try and steer all my customers towards keeping those.
Oh, man, they're awesome. Like, super fast, super predatory, sleek little freshwater fish. Anyway, very, very cool.
Yeah, I love them. Yeah.
Awesome. And so I guess we're really here to talk about, I mean, there's all these amazing, displays around. There's enclosures. There's, a lot of people here are reptile keepers, but for the people listening at home, it's a bit of a strange thing to go out and, set up a home for what might be sometimes a very deadly reptile, or even something that's just bizarre and weird. So I guess let's just start with why do you think people keep reptiles and exotic wildlife?
Well, for me, it started when I was about 4 or 5 years old. I was obsessed with dinosaurs, and reptiles, living today were the next best thing. So that's what I really got focused on. But keeping natives as pets is really important for a whole range of reasons, conservation, education, and so forth.
And just that connection to nature as well, which I think is missing from a lot of people's lives, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's amazing how many Australians just have no idea what animals might occur in their own backyard.
Yeah, so even that local knowledge is, pretty much lacking in a lot of, city folk, city dwellers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, especially, I guess, city people. But I think it's not so much just one particular demographic, but I think it's just the whole sort of society as a whole, just really ignorant and oblivious to the natural world, because we're so caught up on our phones, our computers, our own work, our day-to-day work, and we're just not focused on the natural world. And I really think we need a shift in that attitude, yeah.
So a little bit more awareness of native wildlife would not be a bad thing.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. Awareness of native wildlife and the habitats in which they exist, and maybe, if everyone could have a love for that natural world, we could preserve it, Yeah.
Couldn't agree with you more. And look, a lot of that is what a lot of these demonstrators are out here doing. They're trying to inspire the next generation, get people involved in conservation and keeping reptiles and that kind of stuff. Aaliyah, you were a demonstrator for a while. You were working with Geckos Wildlife, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I worked with Geckos Wildlife on and off for about 6 years. I found that personally to be like a really encouraging experience. A lot of children will come up, a lot of families will come up, and you can give them like that one-on-one education about like the importance of keeping wildlife and what they can do, what's around their area, what to expect.
Is that kind of what you find as well to be important, is to kind of connect to people when they're young?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you can get it into them while they're young, they're probably going to carry it through for the rest of their life, like I have, and probably like you guys have. Exactly.
Who's more enthusiastic about this stuff than kids, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. We've got 3 children of our own, and yeah, no one beats their enthusiasm.
And obviously, there's a lot of very enthusiastic kids running around looking at all these morphs. It's pretty much the same way you were.
Yeah, pretty much. That was me when I was a little kid, going around picking up lizards in the garden, which you shouldn't do, so don't do that.
But yeah, then it's pretty much, even adults in this kind of environment kind of turn into kids in a candy store just going around checking out all the cool colours and morphs. Is there anything in particular that you've seen today that you were just blown away by?
Yeah, well, Joe Ball's blue tongues always blow me away, as does Morelia Magic's morphs over there, all their white pythons and that, yeah.
Those moon glows and stuff from Deb Larks and Wayne Larks down there at Morelia Magic, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, perfect, yeah.
Yeah, incredible animals. And Aaliyah, something that you're keen to see still while we're here? Is there anything that you haven't checked out yet?
I guess I haven't had a good look at the bird displays that we actually have here, which was a bit of a surprise. I wasn't expecting that one, but they've got some pretty cute stuff, some stuff I'd like to learn a little bit more about.
I think he's over there feeding a falcon as we speak.
Yeah, I think he is doing a little show, putting on some tricks, which I didn't do.
What is that, a little brown falcon?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I can't be sure, but that's what it looks like it is from here. Wonderful.
So much stuff here to see today, guys. Absolutely awesome. Now, I guess, what's it like, I want to ask you especially first, Aaliyah, what's it like exhibiting native wildlife and being out there and like handling them and, with the public? Is that very different from keeping them at home?
Yeah, it is very different. So the animals that you exhibit to the public have a very specific temperament that you need them to have. They need to be very calm, very comfortable with like lots of people being around, loud noises, sometimes kids coming up and patting them. So every so often you'll let the kids pat the blue tongues and a few other things because it gives them that tangible like one-on-one interaction that they get really passionate about. So you definitely need to be ready for a few weird and wonderful questions. And you need to be ready for the people that are going to tell you the great jokes like, oh, that's a nice looking handbag, or like, that's a nice looking boat. And you just like wonder, I'm like, do you think I'm the demographic for that joke? Like, so yeah, you definitely got to have your wits about you. And you got to be ready for a few fun facts to come out.
Yeah, right. And you guys at Wild, you don't do a whole lot of demo, more educational stuff, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So we actually run courses and teach kids and adults alike, especially newcomers to the hobby, how to correctly handle and care for their animals.
Yeah, right. So that doesn't include obviously just the funnel webs and the Saratoga, but working with a lot of reptiles as well?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we cover anything from a knobtail gecko right up to a black-headed python or an olive python, yeah.
Wow, very cool. And can you tell us a little bit about Turtle Rescues New South Wales? There's always some amazing stuff coming up on Facebook of you guys rescuing turtles out there from a lot of, urban development at this stage, occupying a lot of those dams and waterways that are being cleared.
Yeah, so old farmland in rural Sydney, obviously Sydney was originally a farming town, and a lot of those old farmlands are now being bought up by developers, and the rural dams that were built like 100 plus years ago to water agriculture are now being filled in so they can build houses and shops and whatever else on those. And in those dams actually live eastern long-necked turtles. And in a dam just 2 weeks ago, we actually removed 224 eastern long-necked turtles.
From a single dam?
Yeah, from one single dam, though it was like the last dam in that area, so they'd actually dewatered about 6 dams around it, and we assumed that all the turtles had moved into that last refuge. And so we got 224 turtles out, relocated them, we spread them out in groups of about 50 into different waterways and rivers that are more permanent, and it sort of gave them another chance at life,
Wow, that's an incredible job. So did you guys, were you there for the dewatering of the other dams around that main one, or was it just that one that had the massive number in it that you guys got to be there for?
That's actually the first one in that council district that we've gotten into, So we've been fighting for that council to be stricter on the developers in the area, but it was only that this particular development, they're building a school, and there were a few concerned residents in the area that had found long-necked turtles sort of run over on the road, and that's how we get a lot of our jobs and a lot of our tip-offs. People find dead turtles on the road and that have sort of left a dewatered dam, and then we go and investigate and find, yes, this dam's been dewatered, there's no spotter catcher on site, we need to get in, get the turtles out, whether, during hours of being paid, during hours of volunteer, or sort of sneaking in there on the weekend and just getting the animals out because they're not sort of agreeing to us doing it, yeah.
Wow, that's an incredibly tough job. Must be very challenging to rescue 240 turtles from a dewatered dam, and they don't take their time dewatering those things, do they?
No. So see some dams, they breach the wall. They use an excavator to actually breach the wall, where they dig the wall of the dam out, and then the water just sort of floods out into the paddock or wherever they're releasing it to. Those ones are a lot faster because the water's rushing out. So they're the good ones where we can sort of be on site for that process, and we can get in that dam the next day. But the dams where they're using small pumps to slowly dewater it, while that's probably better for the turtles in terms of stress and things like that, it doesn't really help us because it's over a 6-week period, and the animals have plenty of time to sort of migrate, and it's during those migrations on busy roads that we see so many deaths, so that's a real shame.
Right, so you'd almost rather that a little bit faster traumatic event, but that lets you actually catch and relocate a larger number of animals?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So if they've dewatered a dam and then left it for sort of 3-4 weeks, sort of just dwindling in the balance, a lot of animals have left there, and then that's when we see sort of 12 or 13 sort of dead in one day on adjacent roads, But if they can just get all the water out all at once, then we can really concentrate, get in the mud, and get all the turtles out. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow. Dude, top stuff. That sounds like a very challenging job. Guys, you can check them out at Turtle Rescues New South Wales on Facebook and Wild on Instagram. Where else can people find Turtle Rescues? I guess you can just Google them and find you guys, hey?
Yeah, that's right. If you Google Turtle Rescues New South Wales, you'll see a whole range of newspaper articles, Facebook, Instagram posts, all sorts of things, and you can follow us. Obviously, we reply to all the messages. A lot of people messaging us every day about turtles they found in their area, especially interstate people asking what they can do for their locals, because this is a nationwide problem. Development, obviously, Australia is a growing nation, and they're draining dams right around the country.
Yeah, not just in Sydney.
No, that's right, not just in Sydney at all. So we're actually getting a lot of interstate people contacting us. Hey, is there a Turtle Rescues, Victoria? Is there a Turtle Rescues Queensland? So, yeah.
Very cool, man. Great stuff. Thanks so much for coming on, mate. I think we're going to have to see who else is lined up. We've got a very busy schedule with guests. But thanks again, Kane Durrant from Wild and Turtle Rescues New South Wales. It's been great talking to you, mate. Hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks heaps, Yanni. I know we tried to do this last year when I was up, but it didn't quite work out, so it's been great to be on the show. Thank you.
No worries, mate. And look, if you are up around Brisbane anytime, we'd love to have you for a proper sit-down podcast at some stage and talk turtles properly.
Yeah, cheers. Have a good one. Thanks.
No worries, mate. All right, guys, we'll be back soon with our next guest. Cheers. All right, guys, we're back with more wildlife cake and cocktails from RepX Brisbane Reptile Expo. Man, I'm having a great time out here. There's seriously so much cool stuff. There was somebody with a barn owl just walking around. Did you guys see that? That was amazing.
Yeah, that was super cool. Very cute.
Very, very cool. Guys, we've got Annette Bird here from Reptile Rehab Queensland. Annette, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Awesome. And you guys having a busy day over there?
We have been very busy.
Yeah, cool. And mostly you guys are pretty much working with volunteers, is it?
It is a totally volunteer-run organisation, so all the costs are borne by our volunteers.
Yep. And you guys are here getting a few more volunteers on board, I believe?
Hopefully.
Yeah, and you having some people sign up to become
I
reptile
hope
carers?
so. Yeah, we need carers all the time.
Yeah, right. So you guys are always pretty much in a shortage of reptile carers?
Yeah, the volume of animals that we get through every season just gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, right.
And our skills are getting better, so we're getting more challenging things come through. So, yeah, always looking for carers.
So you just need more people.
Sorry, minor interruption.
Hang on.
So what you guys are? You taking some donations as well down there? And
hope so.
Yeah. Well, also I saw some. You had a blue-phase tree snake out there, which is one of the coolest snakes around here.
Yeah, he was beautiful.
Yeah, he's captive bred though, so he's not a wild one. But you wouldn't see too many blue ones like him in the wild.
No, I haven't
not.
seen
He's
many.
Cool. Yeah, it's absolutely stunning. And a few rehab animals up there as well at the moment, do you?
No, they're all captive animals up there today.
Yeah, okay. Oh, well, of course.
Because ethically, as a group, we won't bring rehabilitating animals. It's too stressful for them.
Yeah, it makes total sense that you want to minimise the amount of exposure and stress.
My lot are used to it. So
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look. I guess as far as keeping reptiles, is there any advice that you have for new keepers who are here walking around and getting interested?
Absolutely. Whatever species you're going to get, make sure that you've got species-specific setup for them.
Right.
So if you're getting a day basking dragon, for example, you need to have a day basking area. You need to have a thermal gradient in that environment because, the hot temperatures as a constant are actually harmful to the lizard. They've got to be, whatever the reptile, they've got to be able to move to cool themselves down and basically manage their preferred body temperature for whatever species they are.
Right.
So lighting and heating, absolutely critical as well.
Yeah.
So if you're getting a day basking lizard, you have to have the maximum UVB output. If you're going to have a heat source in there, you need a thermostat to control that heat source. And enrichment as well. So it's important not to just stuff them in a box and expect they're going to flourish. So they need things to do because in the wild they do things too.
Yeah, of course. And, obviously, as you mentioned, different species with different requirements.
Yeah.
It's going to be always the key, not just for housing, but nutrition
Absolutely.
and as well for enrichment. I imagine there's animals that will require more enrichment than others. Is that correct?
Yep, chasing their own food. And I'm not talking about live feeding snakes. I'm talking about insects for lizards.
For dragons and stuff, so they're not always being tong fed and just sitting there on the log.
Exactly. So let them hunt for their food.
Right, and have some of those natural behaviours.
Yeah, absolutely. And then make sure that you're providing them with all the nutrients they need. So calcium dust their live foods before they go in.
Right. Do you recommend the supplementation on every round of live feeding? Or
I do,
yeah.
But some people don't, but I do with all of mine.
I guess it really depends on their UV exposure as well, if they're getting enough.
Well, mine go outside, so during the day, so they get the maximum.
Yeah, sure.
They're only really inside full time when it's really cold.
Yeah, okay.
And I guess that's another important point. If you're going to have reptiles, an outside setup is a good idea when the weather's optimum.
Yeah, right.
Because that way they can do their normal behaviours in a bigger outdoor enclosure, and it's enrichment. You're taking them out of their box, and giving them, some more space.
Yeah, can't hurt.
Yeah.
Definitely let them stretch their legs a little bit more, run around,
absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Aaliyah, do you keep bearded dragons as well, or?
I used to have a couple of bearded dragons. I sold them on to one's working at Gecko's now. She's got to work for her food. And
Became
one I sold to a 7-year-old girl whose mum was an ecologist, so I feel like that'll be a good home.
Yeah, okay, that one's getting taken care of.
I always dusted my crickets and such before I put them in, make sure they had to work for their food a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Have a little run around.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have a blue tongue at home, so he gets a lot of fresh greens and fruit and a bit
Does he eat greens? He's a bluey.
Sometimes, if I sneak them into other stuff.
Yeah.
But he does like an egg every now and then.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, look, and it is very important, obviously, with blue tongues and things that are a bit more general, is to have a bit of at least varied nutrition in their diet, I believe, yeah.
I always offer a different fruit and vegetable each day. Going again.
Oh, looks like your mic's live. Yay! We all get our own microphones.
You've got to be a little bit careful with your nutrition as well. So if you're feeding food sources that are too high in certain elements, like spinach is high in oxalates, you can start to get some problems. So you need to vary the fruit and vegetables each day as well.
Yeah, right. Okay. And look, even simple things like feeding too many mealworms or waxworms will very quickly lead to impaction and then obesity, not being able to pass waste, and then just leading to the
Yeah, you have to be really careful.
And getting them used to being tongue-fed, another big no-no. I mean, it's easy, but it's not.
You don't want them to get in the habit of it.
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
Oh, I'm not eating because I have to chase it.
Yeah, getting a little bit lazy.
End up with a lazy lizard.
Yes.
Yeah, I find it's easiest. I just kind of make sure I buy things for myself that I'm eventually going to be able to feed them as well, so then I can change it up for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah, that's the way. Now, look, over at the reptile rehab stuff, is there any particular injuries that you're seeing a lot of? I know, like, dog and cat attacks and vehicle strikes are going to be fairly regular.
Yeah, they're the top 3.
Yeah.
So the top 4, they're all human related. So dogs, cats and cars, always the top 3.
Not a surprise.
Yep.
Yeah.
Habitat loss probably comes in at a close 4th. Where, facing dwindling, bushland population. So the issue there is, where do we put the animals that we're rehabilitating?
Right.
More of them are pushed onto roads and areas where there are cats and dogs.
And I had a prime example earlier on in the season where we had a new estate out where I am. So all the bearded dragons had obviously bromated during the time they were building all of these houses. So summer comes, the lizards all come out, suddenly they're in backyards and tangling with dogs and cats, and I had something like 6 bearded dragons within a 50-metre, long distance, all injured. None of them survived.
Oh, man.
Just absolutely dreadful. So then, had those have gone on to be rehabilitated, where do we release them? We can't put them back in a backyard with a dog.
Yeah, well, they're going to get
exactly.
injured again, yeah.
Absolutely. So that's one of the big things that we face is, where do we put these animals that we're rehabilitating? The law says we've got to put them back where we collected them from.
But if there's risks and threats there for the animal...
Absolutely. So
Right.
we find the nearest suitable habitat.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, near a suitable habitat, which is, I guess, slowly dwindling. Getting harder and harder to find in certain parts
Absolutely.
of Queensland.
And I guess that's why networking with other groups and other community events is helpful as well, because we quite often have people come up to the table that might have a 50-acre property that are happy for us to release animals that they've already got on their property.
Yeah,
so
that'd
we
be
know
such a
they're
good
gonna-
connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. And you guys also do a lot of education there as well down at Reptile Rehab Queensland. You guys run courses.
We have.
I've actually been to one that was fantastic.
Yeah, we've got a pretty extensive education program, so all species specific. So we do lizard days, non-venomous snake. We also do venomous snakes. So we do rescue, we do advanced care, beginner care, pretty well everything.
Yeah, those the reptile rescue and care courses were very interesting. Yeah, there's obviously a lot to learn, but
Yeah, I think I still have things to learn. I definitely want to pop down for a snake one soon, I think.
And it's vastly different to keeping a captive bred reptile.
Absolutely.
The handling is different, you know. I mean, the general behaviours of each species is the same, but the technicalities of handling a wild animal that you've got to, you know, medicate, feed, and all that sort of thing is vastly different to a captive animal.
Yeah, right.
100%.
Interesting. Well, look, on to captive animals for just a minute. We're going to do our first bit of new research. Our first bit of new research at RepX. Very exciting. So we've got the, I don't even know how to pronounce that, Uninix and Lewin paper from 2017. Evidence-based reptile housing and nutrition from veterinary clinics of Northern America, exotic animals, issue 20. Straight from the introduction here, the class of reptiles contains approximately 10,000 extant species. Whereas large differences in ecology occur, there are also commonalities. This article aims to describe these commonalities and translate these to general guidelines for housing and feeding reptiles based on peer-reviewed publications. Species-specific guidelines are beyond the scope of this article, owing to the aforementioned ecological diversity. It is important that species-specific information is gathered for the proper care of a species. So, you know, obviously a lot of the individual, you know, responsibility there to make sure that you've done your research is basically what they're saying. Now, some of the key points here. Species-specific meeting husbandry requirements, basically the thing we've been banging on about, right?
That's right.
You don't
Yeah.
want to take a southern species and give it a desert environment or a desert species.
You're not going to do it any favours.
No.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
or at the same time, you know, if you take a desert species and keep it too cool, not going to be
Right.
happy.
Yeah, well, I have a big difference between my enclosures for my beardeds and for my Bush-Honey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And forest dragons, they're dragons, but they have vastly different humidity and temperature requirements.
Yep. And of course, that's point number 2. Field data on diets and microclimate provide an indication on husbandry requirements, right? So a lot of the time there is going to be some field data that has been collected by people in the past that will hopefully be useful for your housing requirements.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very cool. I mean, this is all fairly straightforward stuff that pretty much any reptile keeper should really know before they get into it. For example, providing ultraviolet light via suitable lamps.
You'd hope so.
Just to extend on that, so UVB, it's between 290 and 320 nanometers frequency, and it facilitates the conversion of 7-dehydrocholesterol to vitamin D. Now, vitamin D is very, very important. It regulates calcium and potassium metabolism and plenty of other biological actions throughout the body. Frequency of vitamin D deficiency in reptiles is very common, and it's together leads to what is a complex of diseases known as metabolic bone disorder or disease. Do you see a lot of that from keepers?
That is like waving a red rag at a ball with me, because I think there is zero excuse for metabolic bone disease.
Yeah.
It's so easy not to get.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's so easy to do.
It's like giving a dog heartworm prevention to prevent heartworm.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Or not giving them tick treatments and then wondering why you got ticks and fleas.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it is one of those very basic fundamentals.
No excuse for it. And
Yeah.
you can buy, when you were talking about the levels of UVB, you can actually buy UVB meters too, to actually check that the output of your light is what it says it should be doing.
Oh,
Fantastic.
I didn't know you could do that.
That's actually very, very interesting. I'm going to have to get some of those. That sounds like a fantastic way to monitor your UVB output, because you never know how old those bulbs are going to be some of the time and when they're going to be producing the right amount.
Sometimes they're still producing light, but they're not actually producing the UV.
Well, they're supposed to be changed every 6 months. So I actually write on the bulb when I screw it in when it
Put
goes
a date
into
on it,
Oh,
yeah.
that's a good idea.
But I also, as a backup, I have a little laminated card on every single enclosure which tells me when I have to change that UV light.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
Excellent. Moving on. Again, more stuff that we already know. Providing a varied diet seems beneficial for most species, and providing several microclimates per enclosure seems beneficial. So look, this is a fantastic paper, really, if you haven't done a lot of research yet into the animals that you're going to get. Evidence-based reptile housing and nutrition. What more do you want? But if you are already a little bit keeping reptiles, and this is kind of like the stuff that you learnt a long time ago.
But you know what? We keep teaching people. So.
Well, look, that's why those education courses are so important for
right.
you guys to keep them going. I mean, obviously, every time there's a big demand for them, from what I hear.
Yeah.
And
Look, I'm not even bothered if people are coming along just to learn from the husbandry section of our workshops.
Yeah, of course.
Because if I can change somebody's practice to correct,
You're saving
I've done
yourself
my
work
job.
later.
Yeah,
I've
absolutely.
done my job.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
you've definitely helped that animal in
Yeah.
its future.
And I think that'd be really helpful. Like, a lot of people want to get into reptiles, they just don't know where to start.
Absolutely.
And they might get one and not know what they're doing inside. I remember I fumbled a bit in the beginning. It's just like, you just got to kind of research as much as you can.
And
then
some
if
of
you
the
find,
information is not correct.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
out
You
there.
get really conflicting information online. So I definitely found doing a course early on to be a really helpful experience for me as a keeper.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Well, guys, I think that's about all we have time for today. Annette, thank you so much.
Not a problem.
I hope-
Thank
Talk
you.
for hours.
I know we could. We'll have to have you on the show probably to really talk reptile rehab at some point
Sure.
if you're keen to come up and join us
Yeah,
at some stage.
absolutely.
All right, wonderful. Guys, that's Annette Bird from Reptile Reptile Rehabilitation Queensland.org. You can also check them out on Google and Facebook. And I'm sure there's plenty of other places they can find, but you just Google. Google. All right, no worries. Thanks again,
Thanks.
Annette. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank
Cool,
you.
thanks.
All right, cheers, bye. And we're back. Guys, we're having a great time here at RepX Brisbane Reptile Expo, and I got two amazing morph breeders here. We've got Wayne Larks from Morelia Magic. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good.
And you guys had those amazing moon blows, and that paradox is still one of the most mind-blowing snakes I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, man, she's beautiful.
Yeah. Now, paradoxes as well, you know, it's an albino that can produce melanin. I heard some theories that might be chimerism.
Yeah, that's what we believe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
so
it is.
chimerism is basically what the two embryos fusing in development, and one of them is albino and the other one is not. Is that correct?
Basically, yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
very cool. How do you line breed that?
Hey, how do you line breed it?
Well, you can't.
Yeah.
Is it? Are we hoping to find mutations that lead to more chimeras?
Well, open to anything, eh?
From what I've seen at chimerism, though, it does seem to pop up in the same places. So it doesn't seem to be replicatable, but funny how it seems to be replicated by the same animals.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
bizarre.
Weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like as if they have the ability to produce this defect. But yeah.
And of course, you're listening to Mr. Joe Ball right now from bluetonguelizard.com.au, the fantastic blue tongue lizard breeder. How you enjoying the show today, mate?
Yeah, it's great, mate. Massive turnout. Love it.
Yeah. Very busy, very busy. Is there any morphs that you've seen out here from other breeders that you're?
I'm always looking at Wayno's stuff.
Yeah.
I'm always looking at that.
Yeah, not surprising. They are absolutely phenomenal. Now, how long have you been breeding these animals? These first of all, the carpets that you have so many varieties of. How long have you been into them?
Like nearly 20 years now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And what did you start with?
I started with water python.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, right. Oh, everybody's got their first little bicycle that they kick off on. And yourself, Joe? What did you start
My
keeping?
first reptiles were red-eared sliders or terrapins.
That's right, because you started keeping them in the UK.
In the UK, yeah. So I'm lucky or unlucky enough to have some of those things that you guys seem to think are sort of out of reach, if you like. Some of the iguanas and stuff like that. So,
just stuff that we would not be able to keep.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I know you're big into your natives, Wayne. Do you have any desire to keep a lot of international exotics, or not so much?
Oh, mate, I'd love a Komodo.
Who wouldn't love a Komodo dragon?
Good answer.
All right, cool. So whoever can get us a Komodo dragon as soon as possible, that would be greatly appreciated for Wayne. I don't think we're going to find one here, unfortunately, mate.
No.
There's some fantastic monitors around. We've seen a few Spencer's monitors and some Mertens and stuff at the back corner. So there's some cool monitors, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got my monitors, got the Parentes and the what. So.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, yeah, didn't you guys have that big outdoor enclosure that you recently put up?
Yeah.
That looked fantastic, by the way. Big glass wall and, plenty of room for them to run around outside.
Oh, awesome. It's amazing. Lizards are totally different, so it's good.
Yeah, right, and definitely much more in need of that UV source as well than a lot of
yeah, they get as much as they like and they get out of it as much as they like too.
Yeah.
So it's
cool. Very cool. Now, I guess for either one of you guys, how did you get into morph breeding itself or morph genetics? Like, was it something that you fell into, or was it something that you attacked? I'll ask you first, Joe.
I suppose for me it was a bit of an obsessive compulsive disorder that I just wanted to keep all these animals, and once I started seeing some cool variances and got involved in it, every time something new came along, I just got to have it.
Yeah, right.
And then once you start breeding them and you see the possibilities that are sort of possible over and above that, it just grows and just gets out of control from there, really.
Yeah, the obsession just keeps getting worse and worse.
It definitely comes from the obsession side of it.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
And that led you into the morph breeding mostly?
I think so, yeah. I mean, initially it was just a reptile fascination, but once I actually started breeding the animals and started becoming fascinated in the different possibilities and sort of anomalies that could pop out, then, it was a natural progression, if you like.
Yeah, very cool. And yourself, Wayne?
Oh, pretty much the same thing, Ever since I've seen an exotic, and seen what they do, sort of thing, it was like I gotta give this a go.
I just felt the need to get involved. Hey?
I just thought we could make some really nice stuff,
Yeah, right. And okay, so I guess there's a lot of people who are out there who will breed things occasionally, but you guys take this a bit more seriously with the line breeding and the development of these morphs. I guess just for our audience and our listeners, how would you describe a morph itself, and how do you develop one?
Well, they are described as non-naturally occurring, but in many ways they actually are naturally occurring. I mean, these genetics do actually exist in all of these animals' makeup, so it is a natural occurrence. Yes, some of them wouldn't last as long in the wild, but it is actually there, and in many ways it's a great selection process to make them more appealing for pets. So it sort of moves these animals from the classification which they're currently under as fauna, or native fauna, in my opinion, to pets. Right. And it makes them accessible for everyone here today, whether it's a kid or whoever. And that's the part I see them play, and that to me is what they are. If that answers the question.
It does. Yeah. And how about yourself, mate? Your opinion?
My opinion is that it's basically the same,
Right. So a lot of these morphs, are you guys specifically, breeding them for particular people that you have in mind, or?
Oh, I think it follows a specific. I'll let you go first for that one, Wayne, because I don't want to take all the thunder.
Yeah, I don't know, like.
Is there a selection process that you yourself use when you're looking at snakes? If you got a new clutch that you've crossed, or are you always looking for something specific?
I've always got my eyes open for anything, looking. And I was actually obsessed with making like snows and stuff.
Oh, right, the really white moon glows and snows and things like that.
Yeah. Before I even had xanthics or anything like that, so I was looking for it and I found it. So.
Yeah. And how do you develop like a breeding line from there? Do you just make sure you find a healthy partner that is not of the same genetic stock and prove that it breeds true over a couple of generations? Or?
I actually got a pair, so.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. So that was pretty easy.
Yeah, breeding pair straight up.
Yeah. But
that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know where I was going to go with that, but.
Well, do you find that you create a lot of new interesting morphs throughout the breeding process, or are you more looking to source animals?
I'm looking at them as like pets. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like say, yeah. If it looks nice, I'll try and breed it and see if we can get it nicer.
Yeah. Cool.
I just enjoy the genes and shit as well. Like trying to figure out stuff like.
It is a bit of a challenge to figure out
something.
what's being expressed where, and what's co-dominant, what's recessive, what's dominant.
Yeah.
It is very interesting, and it must be a bit of a challenge. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it is, and I don't know. You keep your eye open, try your best. I don't know. It's just something I have to do.
Bit of a calling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
It's cool.
And yourself?
For me, I think it follows a precedent in many ways. I mean, you look at the ball pythons and corn snakes and the path they took in the US, then for me it was with blue tongues. It was how could I emulate some of that with what was here, and it's taken the same path, but it's also taken a different path. And some of that maps itself with what actually is available, if you know what I mean. So you've got your hypermels. There wasn't. I've never seen a hypermel, for instance, in other species like we've got with blue tongues. So that's dictated a slightly different path with blue tongues.
Okay.
But there was also the precedence there that other species have shown, like your snows and that, we could do that. But we've got this great hypermel, and we could make the larvas, and we could do this, and we could do that. So
something a little bit unique, anyway.
Yeah, that's right. So it sort of, in many ways, has a path already, but it sort of has its own ingredients and flavours along the way too.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So, like, even with your hypermelanistic individual, you've got these amazing black animals, and that's cool in itself. But that did end up leading to the development of the larva.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, we don't have full notes for our latest bit of new research here. Allen et al. 2018. But this is a fascinating little thing that pops up. Molecular evidence for the first records of facultative parthenogenesis in elapid snakes. So I think they proved this down at Venom Labs down in South Australia. They've had both death adders and taipans produce offspring without mating. So female parthenogenic death adders and taipans.
Weirdo.
Who documented that? Is that Nathan Dunstan down there?
I don't know. That's the paper is Allen et al. Molecular evidence for the first
Luke
records.
Allen.
Is it?
Yeah.
Luke Allen?
Yeah, Luke Allen.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, down at I believe Venom Labs.
Venom Supplies. Yeah.
Venom Supplies. That's right, down in South Australia.
Yeah.
That's great.
It isn't retained sperm then in those animals, or it is definitely.
Well, I believe it's
genetics or whatever.
The molecular evidence is showing that it is actually parthenogenic. Now, I do remember there was records of like a taipan that had been in captivity for 3 years and then it produced a clutch.
Yeah.
But there was actually multiple paternity in that clutch.
Yeah.
Right. So that was sperm storage.
Yeah.
This is true parthenogenesis. So parthenogenesis being virgin birth.
Yeah.
As line breeders, my question is, does that make you excited that you can just once you've got your line, you can maybe find out that some of them are parthenogenic, and then you don't need to worry about
Yeah,
pollution.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
It would be nice.
Yeah,
As soon as you get your your final your moon glow, you just start producing pure clone moon glows.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
Yeah, that's right. If you don't need the genetics from the sire, if you've already got a female that's, say, a moon glow, and she can just every couple of years spit out a clutch of moon glows for you without any energy.
Wouldn't be too bad.
It'd be pretty cool.
I hear it's been heard in a few other species other than just the taipan and death adder, is it?
I think some of the big monitors can do that too.
Yeah, the
Noctis
Komodo in a zoo, never been near another Komodo had babies, laid eggs.
So a Komodo dragon had parthenogenic birth.
Yeah.
When was that?
I don't know, a few years back.
A few years ago. Oh, I must have missed it. I had no idea that Komodos could also go parthenogenic. That's fascinating. Oh,
Yeah.
now I know why you want one.
No, that's not why I want them.
Get some cool morph colours out of it and then just start producing them straight down the line, all clone style. It's fantastic. All right, guys, I think that's about all we have time for at the moment. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. And is there anything else that you guys are keen to see out here today at the Expo? Is there any displays that have caught your eye other than each other's, of course?
I haven't seen any, really.
You've been behind the desk.
Once the crowds die off, me and Wayne will probably go for a little wander.
Yeah.
So.
Sounds good.
For sure.
All
For sure. Like, it's been flat out down there.
Oh, it has. Yeah, no, it's full every time I try to walk past.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So that's Wayne Larks from Morelia Magic. Where can people catch you online? Morelia Magic on Instagram, Facebook?
Morelia Magic page or just on Wayne Larks.
Yeah. All right. No worries. And Joe Ball, obviously, at bluetonguelizard.com.au and on Facebook as well.
Yeah, I use that name across all social media platforms to try and make it easier.
Nice one.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much
Thanks
for joining
again,
us.
guys.
Hope you guys have a good day.
No worries, we'll do.
All right. Talk soon, guys. Bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody, we're back here at RepX Reptile Expo. Having a great time here, and I've got some fantastic venomous snake guests here. I've got the fantastic and very knowledgeable Mr. Neville Burns over here in the corner. How you doing, mate?
I'm fine, thanks, mate.
And what are you up here to? You're promoting the book, the.
I think I've sold everything except one book today, so that's good.
Excellent. What's the title of that book as well, by the way? I saw it up there.
It's actually titled A Gift from the Snake That Bit Him, and you have to read the whole book to get the explanation for the title.
Sounds
it's
good.
on the last page.
For those of you who don't know, Neville Burns has, you've been around reptiles and handling snakes for, God knows how long. When did you first get involved with venomous snakes?
Nearly 61 years ago.
Wow, that's twice as long as some of us have been on this planet. And we're very, very lucky as well to be joined by Miss Christina Zdenek from the Australian Herpetology School. Is that right?
Yeah.
Australian School of Herpetology?
Yeah, Australian School of Herpetology.
That's right. And also from the Death Adder Project, with looking at death adders up on Magnetic Island at the moment, is it?
That's correct.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And wow, there's actually some really, really cool displays here as well. Is there anything that you've been particularly interested in? Any of the displays that you've seen really catching your eye?
I reckon it's been a great turnout. There was a heap of people initially, and I don't think the exhibitors could keep up initially. That was really great. Yeah, I think it's been a great success. It's been fun.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. It's huge. I mean, there must have been, thousands and thousands of people through. What do you reckon, Neville? One of the biggest expos you've been to? You must have been through quite a few in your time, I imagine.
It certainly compares with the best I've seen in Australia. I think it's a very successful day, and I agree there's a lot of people here who've been educated, and that's what it's all about, getting people to familiarise themselves with the hobby, with the reptiles, and it also represents an interest in conservation generally.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's great.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of conservation-minded people here, a lot of people, from various research and scientific and management backgrounds. So yeah, there's a lot to learn for everybody here, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Now, I guess we want to talk about venomous snakes while we've got both of you here. I'm also a snake catcher and keeper myself, but I'd like to hear from you guys. I suppose. Why do you guys keep venomous snakes, and why do you think people in general like to keep venomous snakes? I mean, it's not just the thrill factor.
For me, that's a question I've never been able to answer. I just feel that I was hardwired to it.
Right.
And I had no chance of escaping a love of venomous snakes. They fascinate me.
Yeah.
And I think too, the fact that they are the underdog, they were the ones that everybody wanted to kill, and I wanted to educate people and say they are not nasty animals.
Yeah.
You know, they've got a place in our ecology.
That underdog factor is definitely a big draw card for some of us. I can definitely appreciate that. Rooting for the animal that seems to be a little bit downtrodden. That seems to be the one that needs a bit of help. Christina, what do you reckon?
Yeah. I reckon loving venomous snakes is kind of like supporting the losing team all the time. People are asking, why would you do that?
Why are you still wearing those colours? Why you still got that jersey on?
But yeah, I reckon fascination, passion for me. Ever since I was a little girl, I had snakes. They weren't venomous at that stage. It sort of evolved into that realm. And, being in Australia, of course, we are the land of the reptile, over 1,000 native species here. It's pretty remarkable when you put us in the context of the rest of the world. And even, when you look at venomous snakes as well, the diversity that we have. And of course, within the venom, there's all these toxins that's a massive bioresource, actually. A lot of people don't realize, but
yeah, it's a
these
big cocktail of proteins that could be very handy for other things as well.
Absolutely. There's been several drugs that are saving thousands of lives every year that have been developed from snake toxins.
Is warfarin the anticoagulant for, I believe, was developed from Bothrop's venom?
You're thinking of captopril.
Okay.
So this one, that's the major one that's like $1 billion market, and it's for people who have high blood pressure.
Yeah,
so
right.
It helps to lower the blood pressure. So it's pretty handy. You just it's not like you need to constantly milk the snake in order to make the drug. What they do is scientists isolate that toxin, and then they characterize it, and then can synthesize it in the laboratory
without having to have the venom.
That's right.
Wonderful.
Because that would be dangerous as well.
A little bit more challenging getting the venom every time, I can imagine.
I know last year, Professor Brian Fry told me that one toxin from a South American viper, the medical field paid $1 billion US for it.
Wow.
In 1 year.
Wow.
Because of its value for medical work.
Yeah. So it's, aside from their value as aesthetics for being beautiful animals and just their intrinsic natural value in their own right, their importance for our ecosystems, that's a massive medical value, and so many of these venoms are unexplored for their medical potential. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. So one snake in its venom can have up to 150 different types of toxins.
Wow.
And we're literally just barely scraping the surface. And, of course, with a lot of research, it's difficult to acquire funding. But the little that we do get, so I'm a part of the Brian Fry's lab at the University of Queensland. So I'm doing a PhD on snake venom,
right.
Australian elapids. And what little money we do have, we use it well, and we get a lot of papers out of it. And it's awesome for drug design and development, but also for understanding the evolution of these snakes. And I'm interested in a basic level, but I think the general public also can appreciate them if they can just open their eyes just a little bit and hold back their fear. But I guess doing venomous snake demonstrations, Neville's been doing that for I don't know how many years. I've been doing it for 8 years, and we're slowly getting the message out there. And if you look here at the expo, you've got probably over 100 kids, and they're just so excited about reptiles, and it's really lovely to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You do see a lot of the young minds out here getting very curious and very excited with some of the amazing morphs and colours. It is really cool. As a long-time snake demonstrator, Neville, what do you think are some of the best, for people who do want to educate others about snakes? Do you have any tips or things that you like to personally pass on to the public when you do your demos?
I think the big thing is that snakes have always been seen as an aggressive animal. And, take, for example, the eastern brown snake. An eastern brown snake is a very highly strung, nervous animal. But they will not chase people. They don't look for trouble. They'd much rather use their speed to escape from the situation.
Absolutely.
But when they're cornered, they have the right to defend themselves. And I try to point out to people in my shows, by putting a brown snake right at my feet, standing still, their memory for movement's about 3 seconds. 3 seconds after I've taken a step, if they haven't bitten me, they're not going to if I stand still.
Yeah, sure.
And I've done that with taipans as well. Tiger snakes, black snakes, just to illustrate that this vision we have of snakes as a nasty animal is completely false.
Yeah.
And there's scientific proof of this as well. Rick Shine, famous herpetologist, published over 800 peer-reviewed articles. He did a paper on eastern browns, and he sent herpetologists out, and they were tracking several, I don't know exactly how many, they were tracking the brown snakes. And so they were tracking the people and the snakes and recorded what happened when they encountered the snakes. And I think it was something like 450 encounters, and of that, only 12 of them did the snake actually turn around and approach the person. The vast majority of them, their first decision is to go the opposite direction. So that many times, we don't know that snakes have chosen that path because we don't see it.
Right.
And then the second largest percentage of the choice that the snake made was just to sit still and rely on their crypsis, their camouflage. And the very last resort was
To display,
to display and actually to give a strike. But it was 3% of them did that.
Well, I remember, I think it was in 2000, there was the Whitaker et al. Paper about the defensive strike of the eastern brown, where they took a bunch of them into warmed up enclosures and introduced some spongy rubber hands and feet. And there was individuals that they could not get to strike at the hands and feet. And only about 14% of the active strikes were potentially envenomating. So there was dry bites, there was headbutting, there was shallow scrapes that didn't have venom, and then on top of that, there was individual brown snakes who would not attack at all when cornered.
Yeah.
Is that what you find as well?
Dry bites with snakes are far more common than some people admit.
Right.
I'm not proud of the fact that in 60 years I've been bitten 12 times. But I've been to hospital for everyone. I wisely suggested people treat it as a life-threatening emergency.
Absolutely.
I've only been treated 5 times out of 12. The largest eastern brown that ever bit me failed to inject venom. 3 death adders failed to inject venom. A tiger snake failed to inject venom. So the odds
do you think you were perhaps
really
just
in
lucky?
Your favour. The odds are really in your favour that if you wisely treat it as a life-threatening emergency, realise that first aid is your responsibility, not the government's, not the doctor's.
Yeah.
Carry out the first aid, which the guy that died a few weeks ago in Tamworth apparently did not do.
Didn't use a pressure
No,
immobilisation.
no, they didn't.
No.
He never put a bandage on. I'm not saying it would have saved him. It was obviously an envenomated bite, but it would have given him a much better chance for the doctors to be able to do the thing that's pulling through.
Right.
As far as I'm aware, there hasn't been a fatality from snakebite in Australia when people have put on the first bite, snakebite bandage immediately within 1 or 2 minutes of being bitten. So that's over 40 years since its conception.
And again, the PIT technique is always being updated and improved, and they're saying now start distally on the limb, and no need to start above the bite side. And all these updates are always constantly being made to it, so you can always find the most recent and relevant pressure immobilisation technique stuff on, for example, the Queensland Health website, the St John's Hospital website, and all these other fantastic resources.
And if you forget any of that and you can't remember which is the most updated version, just know the basic concept, and that is the venom is initially not injected into the bloodstream. It's just under the skin in what's called the lymphatic system. And that being injected there, it means that if you compress the skin, so using a compression bandage up the limb, then you are simply slowing those large proteins down, and it's only until they get to the lymph nodes where then it can enter into the bloodstream, and that's where it can have the systemic deleterious effects.
Right, so you can trap it in the lymphatic system before it gets into the capillaries and bleeds into the veins and then gets circulated.
Yes.
Wonderful.
I think a very important point is too that bandage should never be removed, as some doctors have wanted to do at a hospital, before the antivenom was ready for injection if it was needed.
Totally agree.
Because I've seen people collapse within seconds of that bandage coming off.
It's opening the floodgates.
Yeah,
absolutely. Right. So you may be asymptomatic. They think, oh, it's just a dry bite, no worries. And a guy nearly died on Thursday Island, just north of Cape York, from this very mistake. And it can be a fatal mistake.
Absolutely.
Wow. So make sure antivenom is on hand before you remove that pressure immobilization and let
if
the lymphatics flush.
And adrenaline.
Yeah.
Yeah. And adrenaline to get your heart.
A lot of people, I mean, I'm one of them, so I'm very conscious of it. I suffered the worst possible reaction of antivenom, anaphylaxis.
So you get anaphylactic from the snake antivenom?
I've only
from the venom.
had antivenom for one bite, and I was declared clinically dead 3 times.
Wow. So the antivenom was almost worse for you than the previous bites?
Well,
definitely more than the previous dry bites.
In New Guinea, where there's very little facilities for life support, which should be present if you're treating a snake bite in Australia, 50% of people die from the antivenom.
Wow.
So their policy in a lot of areas now, unless you're dying of snake bite, you don't get the antivenom. Then they'll take the chance.
Yeah, wow. Bugger, that's crazy.
But that's also why it's a requirement in Australia for a doctor to be present if antivenom is administered, because you often have an anaphylactic reaction, and so you need to have the adrenaline on hand and in appropriate dosages.
Right. So look, people do ask me that question. Is like, do you carry antivenom around? It's like, well, first of all, no, we can't. It has to be stored very, very low temperature, out of UV. It can't be physically manipulated too much. So I can't just stick it in the back of my car and like expect the heat and temperature will be okay. Is that right?
It's more the expense that's prohibitory. Yes, it does need to be refrigerated, so that would cause an issue for people who are traveling around. But the main thing too, it needs to be in a clinical setting when you are administered, because of the potential for anaphylaxis afterwards.
So that's a massive risk for people who would self-administer at home if they got bitten by their own snake. Who's there to watch your anaphylaxis?
Yeah, well, all you do is put on the bandage, and it gains you between 6 to 10 hours of time frame before needing the antivenom. As long as you're standing still, you just wait for the ambulance to come to you.
Sure. And I guess the question from there on is, how truly dangerous are Australian snakes? I mean, particularly in comparison to other countries. We have some of the most highly venomous snakes, but a very low amount of fatalities. Well, I think on average, 2 to 5 per year is somewhere where we float around.
Well, I mean, a few years back in the same period that 8 people died of snake bite, 40 were killed by horses. And I do a lot of shows at ag shows, and I'll point to the horses and I'll say, how many of you looked at those animals and said, they're dangerous?
Yeah,
None of them.
Yeah.
But I tip out a little snake, venomous or not, it's dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the fear.
Yeah. So that fear and understanding or lack of understanding of how snakes don't actually want to bite us at all.
Well, honeybees kill more Australians and Americans than all the other animals together.
Yeah, I think, was it around 36 per year from invertebrates due to that anaphylactic effect, but still due to the insect bite, which is way more than the 2 to 5 that we have from snake bite.
And the people who aren't taking bites from snakes, it's often people who are trying to kill the snake, or they actively go after it.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
you leave them all alone, they'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
You have to be pretty unlucky, and if you do, that's when you put on the bandage. And we're in a very lucky country where we do have good access to good quality antivenoms.
Yeah, right.
And putting us in the context internationally, that is not the case in many tropical countries. If you look at Africa, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people dying. India as well, Asia, their antivenoms, a lot of them aren't working really well, or they don't have good access to them, or the wrong antivenom is given.
Yeah.
So we have one of the lowest rates of snakebite deaths in the world, particularly given the number of highly venomous snakes we do have. For instance, the inland taipan, there's been 23 people in Australia who've been bitten by arguably the world's most venomous snake, and none of them have died.
Yeah, right. They all got good treatment.
And none of them were in its habitat. They're all snake handlers.
Yeah. Well, look, I do remember reading that, the majority of people who get bitten are, it's not out in the country on bushwalks. It's in urban areas. It's in, in and around houses when people are trying to catch or kill, right? So it is entirely putting yourself at risk of venomous snakes. If you don't pick up or approach venomous snakes in the wild, they're not going to do the same to you. So, yeah.
That's it.
Horse-based bites themselves. I mean, this relocation of snakes has become, it's gone from being... Relocation of snakes, I believe, has gone from being what we thought of as a great conservation measure to something that we have to really question, because snakes do have an instinct to come back to where they're taken from. They've recently done an experiment in America where they moved 12 of the Burmese pythons in the Florida area, 30 kilometres, they all came back.
30 kilometres. That's huge. So 30 kilometres, you can translocate them 30 kilometres and they'll still come back from that distance.
Yep. And this is the problem that I've seen people relocate snakes to the opposite side of a highway, and those snakes are instinctively heading back and getting run over. And a friend of mine in Darwin, he's the government paid snake catcher there. He's found that a large percentage of snakes that he has found, removed, relocated, and put a chip in have turned back, particularly if they were caught in an area where they were feeding around a bird aviary, chicken house or something like that.
So like with a lot of animals, if there's resources there, they're likely to return.
Absolutely, yeah, they seem to know.
They also have to fight for the territory, and if they've already done that in that area, then that's where they feel secure, and they not only know where to hunt and what to expect and where they can hide, but yeah, they also that's their territory. But back to the relocation of snakes bit, there's a great study down in Victoria with tiger snakes, and they found that when they did remove those snakes, these problem snakes from people's houses, the home range of those individuals actually increased significantly. So we think we may be doing ourselves a favor, whereas we could be exacerbating the problem if we don't understand the science. And I guess I'll just do a little plug for the Death Adder project. That's what I'm working on with the Death Adders, and I'll be going to Magnetic Island hopefully later this year. But looking at what are those snakes, what's their survival rate of the ones that have been relocated from people's houses, and can we understand them a bit better to hopefully reduce the pet snake conflict and the human snake conflict as well.
Right, that's fascinating. So that's the Death Adder project that you guys are continuing on up at Magnetic Island. Fascinating project, obviously. Now, we a lot of us as snake catchers kind of, we do see evidence of this, we read evidence of it, and we just generally kind of feel it in our bones that a lot of these snakes will, if you move them out of their home range, they're going to look for features that they recognize, right? Instead of actually using their secretive little back routes from one house to another, they're going to be searching and they're going to be lost. And those searching lost snakes are the ones that are most likely to run into trouble. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've called for a conference on this subject in South Australia towards the end of the year, and they've asked me to be a presenter there if it goes ahead. And I said, well, my aspect would be to talk about educating the public, because we're the humans that have caused the problem. I feel sorry for snakes in the outer suburbs of Sydney or Brisbane or anywhere else where their habitat's been destroyed. They're forced to come into backyards. They're not there to bite people, and it's very rarely an emergency. And I also feel there's a lot of people out there that are trying to make money out of relocating snakes and doing it when it's not necessary. I've never done it as a business. It's something I provide as a service for the sake of the people that are worried about it and the snake. But these people are causing a great deal of fear, and it only becomes an emergency usually when people interfere.
Yeah, absolutely. As we mentioned, it is those people, the majority of people getting bitten are those people in urban areas who are picking up venomous snakes or approaching them and trying to injure them and kill them.
So I do snake relocations, like Neville was just talking about, and we don't do it as a business. It's just there as a service for people. So this is in the Bow Desert area with my partner, Chris Hay. And if we know it's a python, we do try to explain to them and educate them. We take that opportunity and say, look, they're not venomous, they don't have fangs, and if they, hopefully they will choose to just keep the snake and let the snake move on, or even take up residence nearby, where the conflict comes if they've got chooks, and, you do need to have proper enclosures for your chooks, particularly at night, and, we just need to learn to live with these animals. They're Australian, we're Australian, and they're not going anywhere really, so if we can learn to live with them, we'll both be better off.
Absolutely. So, I guess take-home lesson, the more we learn to live with all of our venomous snakes, the better. They're reducing our rodent loads, they're reducing the amount of leptospirosis and various other diseases that are carried by rodents and possums into our houses. So they are doing a good job protecting us, right?
Yeah. Look, snakes have always been an important part of the balance. I mean, nature knows what it's doing. Snakes have hundreds of babies because maybe 1 in every 100 is going to live, and therefore the species will continue. If they only had a few, they might be wiped out. So I think nature could take care of itself. Someone said to me the other day, how many snakes in Australia are endangered? I said, every bloody one of them, because we are destroying habitat at such a rate. And to me, snakes represent the rest of the wildlife. It's the same with koalas, it's the same with... We've lost more mammals in 200 years than any other country in the world.
Yeah, it's shocking, isn't it?
It's disgusting. And I mean, we're a modern race. We're an advanced country. We should be leading the field. We talk about what's happening with elephants and everything over in Africa, but it's worse here. And I mean, 29 mammals lost in the last few years. What the hell is happening?
And some of the fastest, deforestation rates of any country in the world, higher than in the Amazon basin, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago, Australia was in the top 5 nations for land clearing rates in the world. Being, a first world nation, it's pretty deplorable, I reckon.
So obviously the more we can do to educate and get people on the side of conservation and ecosystems, the better, right?
Look, I don't think, as my mate Mike Cermak said, there is a political body capable of keeping us financially viable and protecting the environment, and that's sad. For me, I think the environment's by far the biggest interest I've got in the world, and I think it's the most important thing we can do. And it's time we realise what we're doing. We're over-demanding on the land. We use too many facilities that we don't need to, and if we all dropped our lifestyle a little bit, we'd be a lot better off.
I think an important distinction here to make is that with all this land clearing, of course, the politicians that are approving these development applications, they are getting, they might be creating jobs for a few years, but what's that town going to do after that? Look at the Adani mine. Okay, they promised jobs for 10 years, and then what? They're all going to want to move out because it's just been raped and pillaged, and it'd be a horrible place to live. Jobs
based on ecosystems, ecotourism, and services of that sort seem to be a little bit longer lasting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a sustainable option.
All right. Well, guys, I think unfortunately that's about all we have time for today. Christina, thank you so much for coming and talking venomous snakes and the Death Adder Project. Where can we catch you?
ChristinaZdenek.com and click on Death Adders.
Oh, wonderful. So you've got your own website there. People can find all your publications and your work and photos and stuff there?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. ChristinaZdenek.com, is that right?
Yeah. Good luck trying to spell it.
Well, if you can find her through UQ Herp Society as well and maybe track her name down from there or something.
Yeah, I'm on the internet. You'll find me.
Yeah, okay, cool. And Neville, your book, obviously, The Gift from the Snake That Bit Him. Can people find that online still, or...?
Actually, if you look up Blue Mountains Reptile Awareness, you'll find my whole career as such as it is, all the aspects, and that's the main way I sell the books, although I do sell quite a lot to the general public at agricultural shows and that, because you don't have to be a reptile enthusiast to enjoy a good adventure story. It's all true. I've even got the photos to prove it.
Wonderful. Well, look, can't wait to see it. Thanks so much for joining us again, guys. We'll be back soon with some more wildlife cake and cocktails.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys. Bye. Welcome back to Wildlife Cake and Cocktails, episode 24. It's been a long day here at RepX Brisbane Reptile Expo. I'm a little tired. I'm starting to lose my voice. But that doesn't matter because we have Chilli from the UQ Herp Society and Heino as well. How are you guys doing?
Good, thank you. We're a little bit tired too. We've been here since 6 o'clock this morning.
Oh, God. And you guys have been busy up there passing out some educational stuff, obviously?
We certainly have. And with the UQ Society, we've actually produced 3 of the 6 talks that's been going today.
Wow, so you guys are really here doing a lot of the lecturing as well?
Oh, yes, all about educating.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. And how, Heino, obviously you're from Germany.
I'm from Germany. What do you mean, obviously?
How can you tell? How are you enjoying this? Do you get a lot of reptile expos in Germany as well, or is it not really a thing?
Apparently, there are a lot of reptile expos, but I got into this hobby
a little bit
late.
Yeah.
So back in Germany, I didn't have anything to do with reptiles, to be honest.
Yeah, okay, cool. But you're obviously very fascinated by our Australian snakes.
God, it's awesome. It's amazing. So this variety and whatever. So it's probably, if I wouldn't be with Chilli, I wouldn't know anything about reptiles, but she sucked me into this hobby, and yeah, I'm really thankful for it.
Yeah, right. Secondary benefits, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very good. Now, is there anything that you guys have been particularly interested to see out here during the day, or some species that's caught your eye, or any displays that you're particularly excited to look at?
For me, it's actually just been more to see the amount of people that is coming and the amount of people that are really interested and just the different varieties.
There's a huge amount of reptile enthusiasts here. It's just like a plethora of reptile people. It's fascinating to see how many people are into this hobby and into these animals and just generally like wildlife. I mean, it's very cool.
Yeah, it certainly is. And even the amount of children that's coming through. So it's not just adults that are looking, for their collections and things. It's great to see the amount of kids that are really interested.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of those kids are hopefully going to grow up into the future conservation biologists that we see in the later on.
I'd certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Monitors. Yes, so many nice monitors.
Oh, the monitor lizards.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fantastic. So.
So you saw the Spencer's monitor being carried around by reptile
the Spencers or the baby lacies over there.
There's baby lacies.
Baby lacies, yeah.
2 babies.
Yeah.
There's 2 baby lace monitors.
Yeah.
Who's got the baby lace monitors?
it's
Why wasn't I told?
Nathan.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. All right, I'll have to go and...
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic, yeah. And, there are so many nice animals around. So we are actually not... I shouldn't say this, fans of the hybrids, yeah. So more the natural stuff which occurs in the... occurs is the right word, in the wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so you're more into the wild type than into some of the more breeding.
Yeah.
Still, there is some amazing, still very much wild type animals out here.
Yes, definitely.
Not everybody's going for the super curated. Some people are staying with the naturalistic display, which is nice to see as well.
Yep, and I think that's where for me it comes in, just because I do work with taxonomy.
Right.
So for that reason, I do like my animals that look like the wild animals that we often work with.
Right, rather than something that has been tailored for people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very cool. Well, Chilli, can you tell us a little bit about, this is very interesting coming up, the Brisbane Python Project?
The Brisbane Python Project. Now, we did briefly have a little chat about this in a car many months ago.
But, I hear it's grown a little bit since.
It certainly has, and it's actually going to be taking off sometime soon. So I will be starting a PhD next month. And for that one, it will be radio tracking pythons here in Brisbane. Excellent. And we're going to be looking at those that are being relocated in close to the areas where they've been having to be removed, those that are going to be relocated a little bit further, and also those that are being rehabilitated. So they've been taken out of the wild for an injury. They've been in care, which may be anywhere up to between 6 to 18 months. And then we'll actually be putting them back into the wild and actually seeing whether or not they survive once they've come into care for such a long time.
Wow, that's fascinating. So you guys are also doing differences in translocation distance?
Yeah, that is the plan. Because the project hasn't started yet, I can't guarantee that it's going to work out exactly like that.
Sure.
But I've actually been doing a lot of work with a couple of snake catchers, which has actually helped me tailor my PhD before I've even started it.
Yeah, right.
So it's great. I don't have to spend all this time
Got a foot
learning.
on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. And just the response from snake catchers has been great, because everyone wants to know, are they actually doing the right thing by relocating, or is it actually going to be harming different snakes?
Absolutely. It would be fascinating and very important for us to know, especially on a species by species basis, what we can relocate safely and how far and where should we really be doing it. I mean, we read about all of these animals' ecological requirements, and we base our decisions of where to relocate these animals from there.
Yep.
But obviously a tree snake you're going to want to put somewhere where there's trees. Freshwater snake, you probably want to put somewhere where there's water and frogs for it to eat. But other than that, distances, orientations, and times, these are all things that we really don't know what impact that translocation has on...
We certainly don't, and we also don't know anything about hatchlings, so those have just come out of the egg, and that's a very difficult thing to do, just because there is no way of radio tracking or having transmitters yet.
Right.
That is something I'm hoping to work on, and that we will be looking at.
Are you just looking for smaller and smaller radio transmitters and pit tags and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, but then that's when it becomes, do you do an attachment on the outside, which would be glue, but they shed their skin, so that's not going to stay on? And the question then becomes, do we want to do an immediate survival study or a long-term survival? So if it's long-term, we've got to come up with a more permanent way of being able to attach that onto the snake.
Right, so an internal pit responder, you still have to catch every animal and scan them after that, right?
You still do, and we're still talking about snakes that are only up to maximum of 30 grams. So when you're talking about pit tags and that, you've got to think about how much space does a baby snake have in its body, and also the size. And when we're looking at maybe doing an actual transmitter, what's going to happen if a bird or something eats that snake? How is that going to then affect the bird? Because unfortunately, I do believe that the success rate is not going to be high for juveniles. I do think there's a lot of predation, so therefore we do need to take that into account.
I think that's generally the assumption with a lot of small snakes is that, as soon as they're out of the egg, they're little moving noodles that pretty much every kookaburra and every other, lizard.
Exactly.
And a lot of other snakes as well are going to have on the menu.
And I'm also a little bit concerned about cane toads. So a lot of areas where we're doing the relocations or putting snakes back into the wild when they've hatched in captivity,
Right.
we try and aim for water bodies. And of course, at water bodies, there's pretty much all of them have adult cane toads, but also when we've had the rains recently, there's a lot of baby cane toads. So the question then becomes, what is the first meal that baby snakes are looking for? Potentially, if it is frog or toads, is that killing them as well? So that's
Right.
something we just don't know.
So just putting juveniles into that juvenile toad-heavy environment might be worse than, putting them somewhere where they're going to be finding more skinks and that kind of
Potentially.
stuff. Yeah, right. Wow, fascinating. And when is that all kicking off?
Well, I actually start the project next month.
Ooh.
So, yeah, exactly. Pretty excited.
Yep.
But we won't be actually doing any radio tracking until the warmer months. So, gives me enough time over winter to get through or to get all the trackers, get everything ready, access some snakes,
Yep, of course.
hopefully.
Yep.
It's always good to do a project when you actually have snakes.
Yeah, our samples do help, yeah.
So definitely coming up the next spring, summer, we're hopefully going to be kicking that part off then.
Yeah, fascinating. And Heino, are you going to be helping out with the project, or are you just going to be herping whenever possible?
I would say both. No, I'm a volunteer research assistant, so Chilli might not be around every day. I don't know. So if something comes in, I can also do the radio tracking or whatever, go out, help her as much as I can, try
Right.
to support her and...
So I can have a day off. That's what's great.
So you're a volunteer RA on the on this project in particular, or at UQ?
Pardon again?
You're a volunteer research assistant for this project specifically?
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, both of you get to go around and work on the same thing. That's excellent.
Yeah, but I do actually sign up Heino for other positions around UQ. So there's something really cool. So he's done Sharman's rock wallaby, and potentially he might be doing some small mammal pit trapping
that's very
coming
cool.
up. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Well, speaking of all the pit responders, I think it was when they were tracking the bridal nail-tail wallabies out at Idalia.
Yep.
Where one of them, they couldn't find it, and it stopped moving, and then they found a black-headed python with the transponder inside.
Yep.
So, that's kind of one of the interesting things with the transponder studies. You do find some pretty interesting predation effects some of the time as well.
Yeah, certainly do. And that's what we just don't know what's going to happen with our young pythons.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
So we can't become too attached to them, unfortunately.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, that is the nature of some of these experiments, right? And particularly when you're working with rehab and injuries and stuff, you do have to have some level of detachment because not all of them are always going to be...
Unfortunately, that is what happens.
But hey, we try.
Yeah.
All right, hey guys, I think that's about all we have time for on this short one. Can't wait to hear more about the Brisbane Carpet Python Project. If you guys are keen to come and talk more about it on the couch at some point in the future, we'd love to have you along.
Certainly will. Hopefully when we have the official launch, because we've just had a pre-launch here at this expo.
Sure.
But when we have the official launch, definitely hook us in for the couch session.
Excellent. Sounds good. More cake and cocktails on the way, guys. All right, cheers. We'll be talking to you guys very soon. Chilli, Heino, thank you so much for joining us on the table and for another cake and cocktail. It's been fantastic.
Yeah,
Cool.
you're
Thank you
welcome.
for the mojito.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
I've got one question.
Yeah, sure.
Is our cake?
Yeah, that's your cake. You take the cake. Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. You can take it with you. All right, guys. Cheers. We'll be back with more wildlife cake and cocktails soon. Cheers, guys. Bye. And we're back. Welcome to Wildlife Cake and Cocktails. It's our last segment for RepX. Guys, this has been so awesome. I'm tired though.
And I have no voice.
Yeah,
It is
we're all
big
lacking
day.
a little bit in voice. You're gonna have to get a little bit closer to the mic as well,
Sorry,
unfortunately. Hello. So we're very lucky to have Mr. Cameron Baker from the UQ Herp Society, and you've been running around doing some crocodile talks today. Is that correct?
Yeah, crocodile talk just a couple minutes, probably half hour ago now.
Yeah, we pretty much dragged you straight out of it as soon as we could. We were
Pretty much.
trying to get you on the couch for a while. And Josh, our good friend Dr. Josh Llinas is here. You had a big night with the virus talk last night as well.
We did the virus talk with you, then virus talk, and which Shane did, and then we've had all day today, which has been a very good day.
Yeah, nice. And you guys obviously had a whole lot of interest there at HerpVet. I saw a lot of people coming through and checking you out.
Yeah, I'm pretty much out of everything I brought today, so I'm ready to go home.
Very good. So look, a very successful day, I think, from most accounts. It's been an awesome expo. Is there anything in particular that you were really blown away by? Or?
I just think it was organised quite well. I think the crowd got a pretty good experience about what's going on in the reptile world these days, and I'm very happy to have been here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I mean, there was at least, what? There must have been 10,000 people here at some point, it looked like.
I'm pretty sure we'll find out. So.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was impressive.
Yeah, fantastic.
Good job, Scott.
Yeah, fantastic job from Scott Owen and everybody at RepX. They've just done a fantastic job here, I reckon. So awesome. Cameron, are you going to be doing many more crocodile talks?
None planned at the moment. Never actually know so far this year. Third one for this year so far, so don't know what's going to happen next.
No worries. And you're kind of looking into the spatial movement and reproductive ecology. Is that kind of where you're going at the moment?
Yeah, so my research more looking into like where, when, sort of why female crocodiles are migrating and moving and nesting where they are nesting. So a couple interesting questions I want to try to answer over the next couple of years. But lots of interesting stuff.
Very cool. And you're pretty much getting into the thick of PhD over this year, or?
Yeah, so just starting with my PhD probably in just over a week from now.
Ooh,
so
exciting.
It gets really, really busy, really quick.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you're doing that at UQ. Who's your supervisor, if you don't mind?
So my primary supervisor is Professor Craig Franklin.
Wonderful.
As well as Dr. Ross Dwyer as well.
Yeah, fantastic crew. Oh, man, awesome. My brain's starting to shut down, guys.
I think we've reached our limit. It's probably time.
Podcasting, nearly over for the day. Guys, if you want to check out Josh Llinas, you can check them out at herpvet.com.au. The website is now live.
It is live.
Excellent. And Herp Society, where can we find you guys? UQ Herpsoc on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, all those kind of things?
Yep, and we're also available at uqherpsociety.com. If you want to have a read about what the society's like, and you can even join up online if you're interested.
Yeah, cool.
I'll be coming to do a talk soon.
Excellent. Well, guys, I think that's pretty much us for the day. Normally, I'd be more keen to talk more reptile stuff with so many awesome reptile people around, but I'm a little bit cooked, guys.
Gotta save a bit for next time.
Yeah, no worries. Guys, it's been an excellent day. RepX 2018 Brisbane Reptile Expo. It's pretty much over, but there will be more. I'm sure there's going to be more RepX action coming on around Australia, and there's going to be another one here in Brisbane, hopefully next year. So keep an eye out for that. Until then, I've been your host, Yanni Torcola, and this is Wildlife Cake and Cocktails episode 24, closing off, and we'll see you guys soon with plenty more Wildlife Cake and Cocktails action. Thanks again for joining us, guys, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Yanni.
Yep.